Hello, my name's Hannah with Hannah Crafted Gifts, and this is my newest downline with Stampin' Up! And my good friend
Renee Ewart. I'm a new demonstrator with Stampin' Up!
That's right, and we are both doing our very first video tutorial
Together, yay!
Yes! So thank you for joining us. The card we're going to make today is a slider card, which we actually saw on another video tutorial online.
Yep.
And we will link to that below. But this is the card we're going to be creating. And as you can see, our leaf is going to fall because it is autumn.
Yep.
So it falls down the card and reveals the inside sentiment. So you can hopefully see with the glare there, it's a little difficult, but gathered together is what's on the outside, and then so glad to have you in my life. It's on the inside. Then you can send that leaf back up to close it up. So that's the card we'll be making today. A couple other versions of this card that we've made together. We did a class where we made this one, Thanks for Being You, and the bird flies up the card. The world needs more of you. That's with that bird ballad suite that we both love so much. Everyone loves that. I think that's the best-selling thing in the annual catalog.
Yes.
And then also this version with the hot air balloon. It says, "We rise by lifting others." And that's that, what's that one called? Into the Air. I think we'll link to everything we're using today in the comments below so you can see.
Yeah.
So we'll be making the autumn themed one today because we love fall.
We both love fall.
We do.
We're both from the north parts of the USA.
Northeast.
Yeah, I'd call it Northeast. Yeah, I didn't know if everybody does, but we both lived in Pittsburgh, and so the fall is a great time of year. So we really get excited when we're producing these cards.
Yeah. Especially now that we live in Tallahassee, Florida, where we don't get too much of fall, at least not this time of year. Not yet. It's only October. All right, so we just wanted to show you some of the paper that we're using to get the card started. So we've got the Very Vanilla for our base, which we were talking earlier is just so sophisticated. Sometimes you have to use Whisper White because it's in the DSP, and you definitely want to match. That's one of the things Stampin' Up's so good at is that coordination. But it's just so much more sophisticated, I feel, when you can use the Very Vanilla. And then we've got some papers from the Come Together DSP. Did you want to show them that in the holiday catalog?
Yes, yeah. So the Come Together in the holiday catalog, which is right here, all right, is on page 47 and 48. And here is that DSP, that lovely DSP. And you can see the one we're using is right here, and the other one is right here. And of course, here is the stamp set. And with that, I did get the bundle. And with that bundle comes the gathered leaves dies. And you'll see there are two out from the set right now. Oops, yeah, you can't see that.
There we go.
There's glare, yep. And so here you go, and you have some of the leaves missing because we're going to show you how we die cut them and some little hints about the plates that I've been thinking about and working with. All right, so there you go.
So we've got good tips on that coming. First, we're going to get our card ready to go. So we're going to adjust the camera here so you can see what we're working with.
Yes.
So our faces disappear, but hopefully you can see what we're working on there. Okay, there we go. All right, so this is our base for our card. I've already gone ahead and cut it at the normal 5.5 by 8.5. So it'll be a 5.5 by 4 1/4 card if it weren't for this extra little flap. But hopefully you can see there I've scored. That's what's going to help us create the inside that have the card slide up and down it. I've also pre-cut our slit for our slider, and I've scored at the middle, of course, which hopefully you can see me bending there. But we're not going to fold on our score lines yet because first we want to adhere our DSP. So I've got our Tombow glue here. Flip it over. You can see it's beautiful on the other side too. I know you love those pumpkins, Renee.
Yes, I do.
I love pumpkin picking, but not too much of that here in Florida. Although driving over here today, actually, I did see there was some pre-picked pumpkins that people were out gathering.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a large pumpkin patch, and a lot of people go to it just down here off the road, and it's definitely that time. We're a couple of days away from Halloween.
Yeah.
So.
All right, so this is going, believe it or not, on the side of the card that has that slit there. By the way, I just realized Tom is giving us some nice background music here.
Oh yes, my husband is loves to play the ukulele, and we are just a few feet away from him. So you have some nice music to entertain you, I hope.
Live music. Don't always get that in these videos. All right, so we've got our DSP on there. And again, that covered up the slit. So now what we're gonna have to do is bring our paper cutter over here. Stampin' Up! Is actually just about to release their brand new paper cutter, November 1st. But this is one we've been using in the meantime. And the nice thing about this one, I'm gonna flip it over so that I can see where my slit is there, because obviously I now need to cut through that DSP. The nice thing about this one is I can do that. So I'm gonna line it up, and all our measurements will be in the comments below so that you can recreate this if you want. But this slit is 1.5 inches in from the edge, and then it starts at 1 inch, and it goes to 4.5. And I can kind of feel the resistance there, so I know I'm about there. So now I've got the slit through both my cardstock and my DSP. So now I can go ahead and fold on my score lines. You could use a bone folder to burnish this, but you don't need it right now. There we go, I like to do both sides. All right, so that's gonna be our closed card. So it will be just shy of the standard 5.5 by 4 1/4, but it'll still fit in a standard envelope. So from there, the last thing we'll do before you take over to show your embossing and cutting techniques, Renee, is we are gonna use a 1-inch punch. This is not Stampin' Up!, but Stampin' Up! Does sell one. And we're just gonna cut out, make sure I'm doing the right side of this. I am, okay. Because we're gonna have our slider, see if you can see on this side, and this is actually gonna be the bottom of our card. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut through.
And how do you know where the center is, or how do you do that?
So I'm gonna look at it so that I can see where I'm cutting on the bottom there. And I'm just cutting a half circle, and I'm gonna kinda eyeball the center of the card. If it looks right to my eye, hopefully it will to the person I'm giving it to as well. Now it is cutting through cardstock and DSP, so this is where,
yeah,
just requires a little elbow grease. All right, so now I've got my punch there at the bottom of my card. So before we move on, why don't you take over and show us about the die cutting and embossing of our leaves?
Okay, so we are going to, as you saw on the card, on the original card,
Yeah, let me pull that out.
we are going to die cut these 3 leaves. And so I do have these Big Shot, which I purchased luckily right before they stopped producing the Big Shot. And what I want to show you here with this, can they see that pretty good?
Yeah.
What I want to show you is, so with these new dies, it works just fine. I go ahead and put the big plate down, then we put the thin die adapter, and then I put the acrylic plate down. And then what I do, you know, people have talked about using sticky notes, which I do use at times, but I realized I could use a piece of tape because the tape doesn't hit where you're going to cut out. So I can easily stack all 3 of my dies together. Now these are beautiful dies. If you can see that, the light's a little bit funky, but so you can see how it's all embossed. They're beautiful, beautiful leaves, and that'll come out. So I just tape them straight down. And then what I'm going to do, because they're taped and I know they're secure, one of the hints that I have seen and have adapted is, instead of cutting down into the bottom hard plate, which it is correct would have a tendency, because this surface is so hard, to bow the acrylic plate, what you do is, since it's taped and it's secure, I can just turn it over. And so I've got that turned over so that now it's cutting up into the top plate, which means that this is more flexible and can breathe and can move and not get bent.
Brilliant. Wish I'd known that before I bent my plates.
So then, of course, I'm gonna make sure that I can get that in. Push that in.
I know Renee said that we don't currently sell a Big Shot machine with Stampin' Up!, but we have rumors that a new one will be coming soon, so do keep an eye out for that.
That'll be exciting.
Yeah.
And so the great part about this is there they are, all right, and they are embossed. I see that you probably can see that embossing a little bit. We're going to enhance that embossing with our little dauber and our delicata copper. And so that should be really nice when we do that. You'll see it gets nice and shiny. So now the neat thing about this is storing this. So what you do is when you put it back into your case, you can simply put it down with this tape and it holds down into the case. If I could find the case, as usual.
Under the catalog?
It's under the catalog, yeah.
No. This is what happens when you craft. Things
Yes.
get put
always
everywhere.
lost.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's okay.
and that always
We'll
happens.
find it later.
But what you do is you just put it right down and then the tape will hold it in place and you don't have to worry. So with these done, what I'm going to do is just show you real quick the dabbing with the dauber so that they dry in time for us when we start doing the rest of it. All right, so here we go. We have these. And so I'm just going to go ahead and open this up.
And these daubers come in a pack of, it looks like 5.
Yes.
Daubers for just a few dollars. It's a good
Yes.
deal.
And so I just go ahead and all I'm going to do is take this and then just go ahead and put that on there, which is really nice because of course it's going to highlight the embossing, and it's a nice, that copper delicata is just gorgeous and I've been using it like crazy.
Beautiful for fall.
Yes, and so you'll see, I'm going to show you one and then I'll probably, so you don't have to watch me do all of them, you can see that glimmer there, right there. So I will do the rest while Hannah takes over and does her part.
So what we did for this was we used the Timeless Label Punch on the Very Vanilla, and you can see that there. We punched it out and we used the Gather Together stamp to stamp, also using the Delicata ink. But then we also used clear embossing powder and put that on top and use the heat tool so that you get what you may not be able to see online, but is a really good shine and
Just
gloss,
beautiful.
and also makes it raised, so it just makes it extra special. I don't know about you, Renee, but I feel like embossing is magic. When you watch that heat tool do its work, it's like a magic trick every time.
She does.
I'll tell you the real trick though is using the embossing buddy, one of these, and I was telling Renee earlier, I always forget to do that. She's good at remembering that. You can get this little embossing buddy for just a couple dollars, and it has a powder in it that's anti-static. So when you rub that over your piece of paper and apply the embossing powder, it only sticks where you want it to your ink and not to everywhere else, giving you little colorful splatters. So that's how we created our label, and we're going to be gluing that on once we have our leaves. Because the trick to this card, one of the tricks to this card is placement, because it has to look good when it's closed. You have to have things in good placement and not overlapping, and then it has to look good as you slide it open, so you can't have that leaf that's moving going too far over your sentiment and blocking the words. Then it has to look good when it's open. So again, good placement of everything, and we're kind of using that rule of thirds or odd numbers. So this way we have 3 leaves and they're kind of in a triangle shape there when it's open, and even when it's closed it's a little asymmetrical so your eye moves through the card. So now that our leaves are done, normally we'd let them dry a little longer probably, but let me move some things out of the way here, and we're going to start assembling our card. So the first thing we do is we take this little 3" by 1/2" strip with a dimensional on one end, and take the sticker off that dimensional. And this is the slider mechanism. It's very simple. All you need is this little piece of paper. And so we're going to slide that without closing our cards. That's our last step. We're going to slide that through the slit. And let's see, I think I actually want to make my placement up here at the top. So I've got that slid all the way up to the top of my slit and all the way over, just so the dimensional is catching on the outside of the paper. And I'm going to take our biggest leaf, and give me a moment while I figure the placement out on this. I'm going to place that so that's basically as far up into the corner as I can, making sure the leaf covers the slider so you don't see it there. How's that look to you, Renee?
That looks good. So how big again was that piece of paper?
The strip, it's just 3 inches long by a 1/2 inch tall. There. So there we go. We've got our one leaf down. So now we're going to place our other leaves. I'm going to pull my sample over so I can see where I put everything. These other leaves get dimensionals. In fact, Renee, could you go ahead and put dimensionals on those for me? Gather Together is actually going to be glued down, and here's why. When our slider slides past it, it needs to make sure it doesn't catch. So normally I like to put my sentiment up on dimensionals so that that's what's popping out at people is the message I'm sending them. But you can see the leaf would catch if that was also on dimensionals. So that's why we've adhered that, but we've put all the leaves on dimensional so that you're still getting some pop on the card. So I'm going to get my Tombow back out, put that on our label here. So I'm just going to kind of,
Put that on my fingers.
oh, is it sticky? Okay, great, it's good to go. So I'm actually going to put that one down first. I remember I put that one all the way down in the corner.
And you can see that, I think you can see that shine on those. Those really took the shine well.
Yeah.
I see. That looks great.
It looks more like they're changing colors too, which I
Yes,
really like.
yes.
I'm going to do this leaf last because that one goes on top of my gather. I'm actually going to pull down my slider leaf so that I can make sure that when it's sliding past the sentiment, it's not covering it up too much. Actually, I'll put it all the way down. There we go. All right, I think that's about where I had my first one. So I'm going to give that a second to dry. We were talking adhesive the other day. This white Tombow glue that Stampin' Up! Sells is really good. It stays dry, or sorry, stays wet a little while to let you slide things into place.
But not too long.
But not too long, yeah. So there we go. So we've got that all set. Good placement on that. So now we can start working on our card. So I'm going to set those aside. And by card, you might be thinking this whole thing has been a card, but I mean our interior cards. Let me slide that back out of the way. But this is the card that's going to go inside and actually slide for us. So,
What are we looking for?
Renee, did you have just a plain white piece of paper we could use as our stamping mat?
Oh, yes. Yes.
So that we don't get ink on your beautiful wood board here. So for ink, we're going to be using the Mary Merlot. This is actually the spot that came in the August paper pumpkin, the gift of fall paper pumpkin. But you can get the full-size ink pad in Mary Merlot. And we're going to use the Copper Delicata again. And we've got stamps from that Gather Together stamp set. We've got the big leaf. And Renee has marked the box that we know about where we want the edge of our card to be for that. And then we're going to use that interior sentiment that we showed you earlier. All right, thank you for that.
So,
All right, so we'll start with the sentiment so that way Renee can emboss it. So the nice thing about the Delicata ink being slow to dry, of course, is that you can then emboss.
yes. Did we do the powder?
Oh, see, I told you I always forget, and she always remembers. Why don't you do that for me? Thank you, Renee. Save the day.
And we only really have to do half the sheet
That's
since
right.
we're not going to go all the way up.
So this is another trick for this card. You can only stamp so low, and you also don't want to stamp too low because you don't want to see what's coming with that little punch out. So you have to be careful with your placement. So I'm actually going to put the leaf down to kind of get an idea of where I want that to go.
Yeah, I used it as a guide. You might want to,
Okay, like maybe, and we want to make sure it's not too
at least
low.
a little more
Okay.
this time, right?
Yeah, because we had to do things a little different than our sample, right?
Yeah.
So like that maybe. And
Yeah.
so that means I'm going to want my sentiment about, oops, not upside down, about there maybe.
Yeah, I put it, yeah.
Okay, whoops. Move that out of the way. So glad to have you in my life. I feel that right now. You're helping me out. All right.
Okay, so what we're going to
Yay.
do right away is we're going to get that powder on right away so that we can make sure that we, this is the clear, right? Which Stampin' Up! Does sell.
And the great thing about that is you can turn any color into embossing.
Yes.
So you don't have to buy copper and gold and silver and
Right.
every other color embossing powder. You can just buy the clear. It's not going to be quite the same because that color won't come to the surface, but it will have that thick gloss over top of it. So it still looks shiny. It's still raised.
Yeah.
How does it look?
It comes out beautifully. Yeah, it took it.
Okay,
It took
good.
it
You want to show them
completely.
what that looks like? Just the
Oh,
powdery
yeah.
version?
So the powdery version
There it goes.
is where it doesn't come out, it's a little dimmed.
Yeah, it's
That's-
frosted almost.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, that's the word, frosted.
So Renee is going to
So-
go and do the magic with the heat tool to actually get that to emboss. How'd you do over there, Renee?
Oh, great. Came out great.
I'll pour our
Yes.
excess powder back
It's,
in here.
it's like I don't know how to describe this, but it is different from your standard procedure, but it just glistens. It's just delightful. I'm very impressed by that.
Did you have a chance to show them that? Oh, that did turn out well.
Yeah.
Lovely. So not only do you have the shine of the metallic ink, you have the shine of that gloss on top.
Right.
All right, so now we're gonna do our Mary Merlot. I love how she's left it attached so she can't lose her lid. That was
Yes.
smart.
Yes. And I do like to dab on, even with the big pad, I have a tendency to take the pad and dab onto my stamp. I find that makes less of a mess for me.
Yeah, I think you get less of the shadow Notice there's nothing on the block
Right.
to then get on my card.
Right.
All right, so I'm going to stamp this hopefully not too high, not too low. Just so. Oh, I lost my mat. Sorry, I put that away, Renee. Might get a little on your wood. That's okay.
Oh,
We'll
that's
wipe it
okay.
off.
No, that's usual.
Okay, that turned out pretty well.
Yes.
So there's our first attempt at a leaf. Let me get my mat back.
Yeah.
Here we go. This is what Renee was talking about, even with the large ink pad to bring it to the stamp. That is a good tip. I'm always worried I don't have enough ink. Usually, you don't have to worry so much about that.
I'm the same way.
All right, so this, you try to line up, but we were saying earlier, it's not going to be perfect, and that's okay. It looks more organic that way, which with a card like this is good to have that kind of rustic look.
Right.
And I think you were saying it can be kind of like a shadow almost.
Right. And that's kind of, it just gives it really a nice look. I've really enjoyed doing that.
So there you go.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, that's nice.
So hopefully you can see with the light there a little shimmer. So you can see it's just a little off, but it makes it look like a little bit of a metallic shadow on there. So we're going to let that sit aside to dry. Although we're almost done with our steps here.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and try to do our final assembly here. So with the card open, we're going to put some of our Tombow on this little strip.
Yeah, it just goes on the strip.
That's right. And you do want to be careful about not having it ooze out, because then it is going to make the slide a little stickier instead of smooth. And this is where I was saying earlier, you're going to line up the top of your card with the top of that strip, making sure the strip is straight. It's kind of a tongue twister, isn't it? And you also want to center it, because this card is going to be not quite as wide as the base. I think I've been referring to them both as the card. That's a little confusing, but this is our card base. This is our actual card, I suppose.
Yes.
Inner card, outer card, whatever helps you. All right, and hopefully, good, we don't have anything peeking on our little part there. So we're just gonna give that a second to dry, and then make sure that it's sliding, and it is. It'll get smoother as we practice that. So wonderful, so now we can go ahead and close this up. So I'm gonna fold in this part that I scored, which I think is scored at 1/2 inch. Again, we'll have all the dimensions below, but I think that's probably 1/2 inch. So instead of 8 1/2 and being 4 1/4 when you fold it, this is the extra 1/2 inch, so it's really 8 inches, and when you fold it, it's 4. So that's what it is. It's 5 1/2 by 4 instead of 4 1/4. So still not much smaller than your average envelope. So we're just closing that over. A little extra glue. Sealing it up. Ta-da! There it is. So again, you just let that leaf fall. And there's your card. Get it so you can see the sentiments again. It's gathered together. I love that sentiment, because what do you do with leaves? You gather them up, right? And then, I'm so glad to have you in my life. So there's our finished card.
Yeah.
We'll get back in view here, say our goodbyes.
And remember, before you leave this video, to go ahead and at the bottom, please like us. We'd really appreciate that. And subscribe. We do intend to be on, so we're hoping to visit you again with more cards and more ideas. I'm the scientific person, and I love to figure out problems and try to solve them. And Hannah's exceptionally crafty. She's an exceptional card maker, as you can see. Not upside down, but right side up.
That's another way of looking at it. Well, crafts are certainly science and art together. So
yes.
We're so glad that you joined us, and we'll hope to see you again soon. Until then, happy crafting.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Well, the next part would use the leaves, but I'm going to skip ahead because those are being worked on and drying, because that delicata ink, like Renee said, does take a little while. So we've already gone ahead and created our sentiment. Let's see if I can get the light to not quite catch that. Let's see, maybe if I block the light.
Well, let me see
shadow.
if I turn
There we go.
down that light.
That doesn't quite work, does it? All right, we're about to lose some light. Oh, too much light gone.
How about that?
Okay. Might also hear some birds in the background, huh?
Yes, you might.
Renee's got a menagerie here. If you've watched any of her other videos, she's got How many birds right now? 4?
5.
5. Are you bird sitting?
And 5 are mine, and I am bird sitting 1, which makes it the 6th one.
Well, there you go. Plus 2 dogs.
Yes.
My
And
cat's
the
at
husband.
home. That's right. All right. Sorry, it took a little while to get that glue out, but that gave you time to get the leaves ready for me.
Yes,
Thank you.
they're all set.
All right.
And it dries really well. I also, as you know, people have all kinds of contraptions to put the glue in upside down. And I use just a small espresso coffee cup, and that works real well.
There we go. Sounds like Tom's making a phone call.
Yes,
It's a party.
Excuse me.
While she's doing that, let's see if there's anything else we can work on. So I can't close up my card yet because we want to be able to slide that card in. I can move this back up so we're ready to adhere the card. Because what's going to happen when we adhere the card, we're going to adhere it to the top of this strip so that the card top and the strip top are flush. And that's how we know the spacing works out. When you use the dimensions that we'll share in the comments, you have just the right setup for this card to function smoothly. And it's a real wow. I feel like it's actually quite simple to make, but then people see it, and the fact that it's interactive makes it a real wow experience for them, which is great. Those are my favorite types of crafts. Easy to make, but they don't look simple when you share them with someone else. Would you mind rinsing that off, and then we can use that with the Delicata?
Yeah.
The Delicata ink does come in silver and gold as well in the holiday catalog. We're not sure if that will roll over to the annual catalog or not, so that's certainly something to get now while you can, if you're interested.
There are 3 colors.
That's right. Yep, we talked about all the metallics.
Yeah.
And I've used other metallic inks and trust Stampin' Up! To only use the best because these are the best I've ever experienced. Oh, thank you. So there's the gold. It's actually called Gold Inglets. And then there's the silver. What's this one called? Silvery shimmer. So there we go.
So with that embossing, you can imagine how lovely those would be.
Yeah. So we'll actually close. Oh no, I did open that up because we're about to use it. Thought we were done. Not yet.
Okay,
Thank you,
dry it
Renee.
off.
Thank you very much. So let's see. I think it really is just assembly. So we'll just do that carefully. But again, normally you might let this sit for 5, 10, even 15 minutes while you're working on something else.
And I can tell them a few things about how I store my plates.
Oh, great. Okay, why don't you do
Okay,
that?
so here are all my plates. I even got the new blue plate for the embossing, and it works very well. But what I do is I take these 2 plates and the embossing plate, and I put them at the very bottom of my stack. Now I have every kind of plate you can have because I do love to emboss, and I do love to cut out the different things. Then I go ahead, so I have these little extra embossing folder. They're actually foam, and but they're actually also called, I don't remember now, unfortunately. But they're used to help you. If you have a die, you can emboss your die with these foam pads.
That's
So
right.
anyway.
I think they're silicone. They were in the last annual catalog.
Yes, yes.
But what a great thing to turn all your dies into embossing.
So I stack them like this in my cabinet, and then what I do is I have tons of punches, and I have to stack my punches somewhere. And what better thing to do than stack all of your punches, because they're really heavy and everything is pressing down on a flat surface to keep the bottom plate flat. So this is how I store them, and I have quite a few, and I stack them all up here, and so it's nice and heavy and keeps them flat. So that's the hint from me, instead of heating the plates that and it doesn't work anymore supposedly, so you can't heat them to flatten them out. So just try this and see if that doesn't help a lot.
That's a great tip. Renee's gotten really organized with all her crafts. So we could show you her whole craft room right now. You'd be impressed.